In our last video, we created this rope border using a blend group and fitting that to a path. And I kept the section of the rope that we created for this because I want to show a different way of doing it, and that would be using artistic media. So with that selected, we'll go up to Effects and say Artistic Media, and it opens up the Artistic Media Docker over here. And all we have to do is hit Save, and it's going to save this as a new stroke. I want to use the object sprayer and click OK. And then I'll just give it a name like rope and hit save. So what that's done is it's created a artistic media stroke with our rope piece. So if I grab the artistic media tool, I can click and draw, and I'll just hit Shift F2 to zoom into it there. But every one, I think this is inches, but every 1 inch it's going to then give us one of those pieces of rope. If we change that number, let's say we go down to ½ an inch, then it's going to be not as spaced, or not, it won't be spaced as far apart from each other. And we had to do the same thing on the oval before. We're going to take this and do a relative to path and hit enter. That way it's going to actually move along the path of our curve. I just drew that freehand with my mouse, so it wasn't very smooth. But if I come in and double click on these to delete some of these nodes, we'll see how the rope then bends a little bit nicer. And once again, if we click on that, we can drag that down, and that'll give us less spacing. So we're going to use this same technique, but we're just going to use it on the die now. So if I select the die, and I'm going to make a copy of it, I'm just going to drag it over here to the right, holding Control so that it stays in line. Right click while I'm doing that, and let go of my left and right clicks. And I'm going to make this 30% gray. Okay, so I'm going to turn this into an artistic media stroke now, since we've got that path. All we have to do is come over and say last used, since we had already messed with that. If we hadn't already messed with it, we scroll all the way down to the bottom and it would be at the bottom of the list since it was newly created. So I'm just going to click on it there, and it's going to go all the way around our path now. Same thing that we had to do with the line that we had created before. Just say relative to path and hit enter. Change our spacing. I don't remember what it was at before, but 0.35 actually looks pretty good. So that's 0.35, I'm assuming, inches between each of those. Maybe let's not make that an assumption. Let's measure this. It's 0.075. So I bet it's from center to center. Yeah, so from center to center it's going to be 0.35. That's what it seems like it's doing. 0.075 inches is probably a little small. I like to have 0.09 inches actually for the gap. So what I'm going to do is select that and change this then. We'll go a little bit larger so that our gap, I guess I didn't need to go quite that big. There we go. That's a little bit nicer. However, if we look here, we've got a little bit of a duplicated piece. So depending on how much spacing we have, we may or may not need to take out one of those sections there. It's a little bit different from the group where you had a beginning and ending point. But okay, so this is also a little bit different because if I go to wireframe here, you'll see that it's centered on the die itself. Before we had to create a contour so that we could do our border down here. We don't need to do that with the artistic media, because what you can do is you can say I want to use an offset, and let's just offset it by ½ an inch to the left and hit enter. So it's offsetting it now ½ an inch down below. So we didn't have to do our contour there. Once again though, to mess with it, we'll have to select that and say break artistic media group apart. As soon as it's broken apart, we can click on this. It's a group of 238 different objects. I'm going to ungroup it and combine that together so that they can all be together, and then our stone, then I'll just go with 30% gray there. If I select it, I can go back to my frosted outline button and it'll do what we had done before, where it created our outline for us. So that's two different ways of doing it, using a blend group or using artistic media. Another cool thing with artistic media while we're talking about it is, let's say I wanted to do something like a rosary, right? So I could just create a circle here. Let's do a 1/4 inch circle and maybe fill that in with black. So I've got that, and let's do a 1/2 inch one as well. Alright, so I've got 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch bead, basically, is what I'm going to do for a rosary. So I'll take that, click the save button again, do an object sprayer again, and this time we'll say rosary beads. Hit save. So that's down at the bottom of our list. I want to take this and add it to that spray list. So if I just drag and drop it over on top of that, then it's going to add it to the spray list. So now we've got both of those. So if we draw a line now, or use our artistic media, I guess, let's draw a line like this. Here we go. So it's got only one small dot and then one big dot. And that's because that's all we did, right? We started out with a small one and added a big one. So we're going to edit our spray list now that we've drawn it. Go to spray list options, and if we click on them, you'll see one's big and one's small. It's kind of hard to differentiate here unless you actually click on them, since they both look the same on the left. But if we go to our small one, we can just add 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of those. That should be right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, so that's 10 little beads for every one big bead. So I just click OK, and that'll change it. So now we've got 10 little beads for every one big bead. So all I would need to do is edit my curve. Make that a little bit shorter. Oops. Turn that into a cusp. Hit C on the keyboard to cusp that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. I'll just clean this up. I'm sorry, it wasn't very pretty. Alright. And I probably shouldn't have gone to all that work because I don't like how much space there is between those anyway. So I'm going to change our spacing maybe to 1/2 inch instead. There we go. Let's just shorten that up a little bit. Oh wait, make it a little bit longer. Make it a little bit longer. You can see as I make that longer how it changes then. And since it's a curve, I mean, I could just curve this any which way that I want to. And it's just going to keep growing my rosary. However I want it to work. So that's another cool thing to do with artistic media. Also, the good thing about this is that once you've got it created the way that you want it, if you go, sorry, I have to select the whole thing. go up to Object and say Break Artistic Media Group Apart. Then it shows us our reference line that we drew, and we can change the thickness of that reference line to 0.09 inches, and then it will give us the necklace line. So there's a couple different things we can do with artistic media and paths, and pretty neat stuff.